reasons why they pick whatever. So there's cameras, there's lenses, there's tripods, gimbals, stabilizing equipment, audio, lighting, and the computer. So I want to get into, is expensive always better? No. Generally, you get what you pay for, but it's not always better. And so with computers and graphics cards, it depends on what you are shopping for. If you're going, because for example, how many of you guys know what a Chromebook is? A Chromebook is a really affordable laptop, but it's only meant for like online browsing. It has no storage hardware. It has no storage drive on it. And so it's meant for web browsing. It's not meant for heavy editing. It's not meant for any of that kind of stuff. And so it's a browsing online computer. If you get a computer with a graphics card, it's going to handle CPU. It's going to have a good CPU to handle like video editing, graphic design, photo editing, Photoshop, that kind of stuff. And so we're making an investment. That's what I try to push. And you're making an investment in the right things. And so a good computer can go a long way for you because why? Saves you time and frustration, because if it crashes on you and then now you got to start all over and you're pulling your hair out and you don't have any left, then it can be disappointing. It can be discouraging, make you want to quit and give up. But investing into a better computer will streamline that process a whole lot faster for you, so you're not struggling over those bad CPU, that kind of thing. And so that's an investment. So it's saving you time and saving you stress. Okay, so cameras, different camera bodies have different functionality, different purposes, different intentions. Okay, so usually when a student comes and asks me, hey, what kind of camera should I buy? This is my first camera, I don't know. Usually I want to recommend for the classes here at Blinn, for the work that you're turning in here at Blinn, there's photo, there's photography, there's video, and there's other graphic design work that we do as far as part of our program. So I want to recommend something that does both photo and video. Nikon does really well with photos, but they're very severely lacking in video. Canon does both really well. Sony is more on the video side, but they do both photo and video really well. Now, the biggest caveat, or like the biggest argument for Canon, is the color science. People love the colors that come out of Canon product. And the biggest argument for Sony is low light. Sony performs so much better than Canon in low light situations. And so if you're shooting weddings and it's really dim, it's really dark, you want to be shooting at something with a Sony. It just does better. Yeah, it just does. So, but if you have plenty of light and low light is not an issue for you, then yeah, Canon is a very good product as well. And another thing about Canon is they have a bunch of lens options. And so Sony only has a few. They're good, but there's not as many of a variety of selection to choose from. And so anyway, moving on. And so lenses, we've talked about aperture. And so your aperture is going to come from the type of lens that you have. If you have a 5.6 aperture lens, it's not going to get that blurry bokeh background that you're looking for like a 1.8 would. And like a prime lens, they're usually geared for more lower aperture, but it's a fixed focal length. Does that make sense? Is what I'm saying make sense when I say prime lens? Okay, so let me explain a little bit. So a zoom lens will adjust, like you can zoom in, zoom out. Prime lens is fixed. If you have the 15mm prime lens, you're fixed and you can't zoom in, zoom out. But it's really, I use it a lot on gimbals because I'm not zooming in and zooming out on gimbals. Does that make sense? And so if you have a fixed prime lens, it can go down, it can go lower in the aperture without being so expensive. And so you can get a like a 50mm prime lens, 1.8 aperture, for like 150 bucks. Which, if you got a 1.8 lens in anything else, like a zoom lens, it would be like over $1,000. And so prime lenses can be a cost-effective way to get that bokeh that you're looking for. Okay, and so tripods. Usually, if you're doing photos, tripods is a tripod. But when you're doing video, you gotta have like a video fluid head. Because if you're moving and you're panning and you're tilting and stuff, a cheap tripod won't. It'll be herky and jerky and it won't do well. And so that's an investment we need to make as well. If you get a cheap $30 one from Amazon or Walmart or something, it's not going to last as long. And so people do recommend you, because once you buy a good one time, it'll last forever. You don't have to worry about buying again and again. And so there's guys out there on YouTube who say, buy nice or buy twice. Because the cheap one will break down and you have to buy it again. And then you wasted your money on the first one. So buy nice or buy twice is a good rule of thumb to think of. Tripod is definitely one of those things that you want to make an investment in. Audio, mic, and capture. We talked about audio before. Audio is half of your video, because if you don't have good audio, then people are just watching a pretty film. You know, like it's not as intriguing, not as captivating. And I think my theory on why audio is important is because it's like the oldest form of technology. Like we've had radios around for like a century. You know, radios have been around a long time. And so we really have no excuse with all the technology that we have now to have bad audio. And so that's what the way the consumer is thinking about it. Audio should be great. Audio should be really good. People can sacrifice video quality if audio quality is there. But you can't do it the other way around. You can't have great video and horrible audio. People are going to keep scrolling. They're not going to watch. Okay? Lighting is imperative. This here, lighting, good lighting will make a bad camera look good or look expensive. So you can get away with a cheap camera if you have good lighting, whether that's daylight or whether that's artificial light that you're pumping out. So lighting is imperative. And then we talked about computers already. So, but I do want to really get this through our understanding of more expensive isn't always better. All right? And so they say that you get what you pay for, which most of the time is true. But whenever you're getting into really expensive stuff, you start losing functionalities. You start losing some things because okay, for example, like right now, the standard is 1080p, 1920 by 1080p definition. Then the next step up is 4K, which that's becoming the standard. That's like this TV here is a 4K TV. That's becoming more and more popular, everything transitioning that way. The next step up is 6K. They have 6K cameras out there. They have 6K TVs and 8K TVs. But there's just one camera that shoots 12K. We don't even have 12K TVs yet, but the camera shoots 12K. And so it's a high resolution camera. But and it's just super expensive. Or a slow motion camera. Have you ever seen those videos where they take a gunshot and it's hitting something and it's super slow motion? It's like, because the standard definition or standard frame rate per second is 24 frames per second. Then slow motion is like 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. Those gunshot videos are like 1,000 frames per second. And so they specialize in that specific thing. Like a 12K camera specializes in resolution, not audio. In that 12K camera, there's no autofocus. In that 12K camera, there's no battery. You have to plug it up to the wall, you know. And those super expensive cameras, they specialize in that one thing, that you lose all the other functionalities of a more affordable camera. And so there is a kind of a curve to it for cost. Well, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to mess this up. So there is a kind of a bell curve to this as far as functionality and cost. The cheap stuff won't do well in any situation. You know, just so low, it's so cheap, it's not going to do well. And then you start investing more money, and then the quality goes up, and the cost, you start investing more money, and then somewhere around here, where it's still good quality, it's still good functionality, that's in the middle of the cost, right around here, that's where you come into the sweet spot. Okay, this is still affordable. It's kind of an investment. It's kind of expensive, but kind of affordable. They call it prosumer. So it's not consumer level. It's not professional level. It's a prosumer in between. Okay, and you still have your autofocus. You still have your mic adapters. You still have your battery power. You still have all that stuff in there. But it's not so expensive. It's unrealistic, you know. So, but after you get to a certain point, the cost is still greater, but then you start losing a lot of the functionalities. That make sense? We're good on that? Okay. So let me go into this video here, and this one's kind of a sketch, and we'll get a understanding. So the title of this video is Every YouTuber Ever. Ready?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about why gear doesn't matter.
So it's a little short film, and he's making fun of all these other YouTubers. They're always pushing a product. Oh, gear doesn't matter, but here, buy this thing, you know. And in the background, they have this super expensive microphone. You know, it's $400 for that podcast mic. You know, that Canon C200 is a $2,000 camera. The lens on it is like $1,500 lens. All these lights, all the stuff, right? And so it's kind of a humor, like parody, kind of making fun of the other YouTubers. But what did you just from a standpoint of quality of the video? What did you guys think of how he set it up?
It was a satire.
Say again?
Satire.
Satire?
Yeah.
It's kind of a satire.
Yeah.
But you don't know it's satire until the very end.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about why gear doesn't matter.
Okay, so you don't know it's satire to the very end. So the whole setup, what do you think of that? Music?
It's
It was none. It was all like the sound that he was working. He was working on something, setting something up. What usually is called ASMR, or yeah, I think it's called ASMR. I don't have another word for it, but it's so like you're hearing the sounds of them doing that only. You don't hear anything else. But he doesn't walk in and look at the camera. He doesn't set up. He's showing you like he's busy, right? And so he walks in. The very first thing you see is the back of him. So you're following him through his studio. Lighting, setting this up, hear the sound. So yeah. So it's I found it funny, but yeah. So just I thought it was relative. Here we go. So this guy, his name is Darius Britt. He's a YouTuber, and he talks about this kind of mindset, and he explains a little bit why this industry is the way it is, and I'll go ahead and let you watch it.
With these cameras, here's a list: Sony A63 or 6400, Canon T4567 or 8i.
Let me start this all the way over. The title of this is "You Can't Make Movies with These Cameras." And it's usually like in the comment thread of a YouTube, someone's doing a review on a camera. Hey, this is a great camera for this and that. And people in the comment threads, you can't make real movies with this type of camera. Let me start it over.
You cannot make real movies with these cameras. Here's a list. Sony A63 or 6400, Canon T4567 or 8i, Nikon D3300, Sony A7 III or 4, Canon M50, Canon R5 or 6, Panasonic Lumix GH4546. And the list continues. You noticing a pattern here? I've seen this comment often over the years. You can't make real movies with prosumer cameras. These guys technically aren't wrong. Many of you watching don't have a ton of money for gear. You're working a 9 to 5 to make ends meet, and you want to pivot into filmmaking, hopefully. You see comments like this and it's kind of confusing. Well, what the f are we supposed to do? Rent an Alexa every time we want to shoot something? No one has that kind of money, especially when you're starting out. These commenters, they mean well, most of them. Many are in fact working professionals. What's usually missing is the context behind what they're saying. I want to help these cats out so everybody's less confused. But before I do that, let me set the table first. Lena Dunham made a movie called Tiny Furniture. She shot it on a Canon 7D. Cool little indie flick that film launched her career. The Duplass brothers made Puffy Chair. They shot it with a Panasonic AG-DVX100. This film was one of the cornerstones for the mumblecore movement. It eventually got picked up by Netflix back when it was called Red Envelope. That film helped propel their career. Drake Dormus both wrote and directed Like Crazy. Again, shot it on a Canon 7D. It was a Sundance hit in 2011. It launched that guy's career. Shane Carruth made Upstream Color. They shot it on a Lumix GH2. That film went on to become a huge cult classic. We shot my first feature, Unsound, on a Canon 60D. We screened that film at 25 international film festivals, winning 15 awards, in competition with some films that had 5 and 10 times our budget, shot with red cameras and such. What do these films all have in common? They're all shot with prosumer cameras. Cameras that you quote-unquote can't make real movies with. But wait, these are real movies. Are we missing something here? If these aren't real movies, then what's the definition of a real movie? What these commenters mean to say is, companies like these guys here make real movies. You can't use prosumer cameras to make movies for companies like this. Here are a few reasons why. 90% of prosumer level cameras aren't compatible with the delivery requirements and technical specifications needed. It's not just about what looks good on a movie screen or a cell phone. There are loads of other factors to consider. Netflix has a list of approved cameras that they will work with on their website. You can Google it. As you would expect, all the cameras are fairly pricey. But Netflix is not doing this to be jerks. They just don't have time to fart around with untested workflows for cameras that were never designed for prime time quality. For the most part, prosumer cameras aren't designed for crew-based filmmaking. Camera team, focus pullers, DIT, and such. Not saying you can't do it, but you have to take some extra steps. The codecs and things from prosumer level cameras generally don't hold up well to the push and pull beating that comes with post-production. We had this problem with our movie Unsound. We couldn't really push the colors too much or the image would fall apart. These companies are investing millions of dollars into their movies and shows. When you're spending that kind of money, you kind of want people using the best tools, not passable tools. But this doesn't really affect you guys. Here's why. If you're a new filmmaker, getting onto Netflix is like step 105. You're on step 1. Focus on step 1 first, then step 2, then step 3, 4, and 5. Your goal isn't to match the quality of the big budget films that use big boy cameras. It's to match the storytelling. If you can tell amazing and engaging stories with a cheap camera, opportunities will come your way, trust me. Don't worry about making real movies. Focus on making good movies. Over in the Simplified Film Archive, we talk about how to do this. We look at examples from short films across the net and discuss actionable steps to telling engaging stories that get noticed. We just wrapped up our first composition challenge. I had a blast reviewing all the submissions. Hey, join us over in the archive. Link below. Many of you have asked about my process for creating the visuals that you see in my videos. So, I created a walkthrough of my workflow, from sourcing assets to Photoshop to After Effects to Premiere Pro. Take a peek over my shoulder, see how I do what I do. Link below. That said, I'm grabbing some eggnog. Happy holidays to you. Small tweaks make big peaks. Team Britta.
So what do you guys think about that video? So it's he talks very fast, but I felt I like him because he's straight to the point. He's adding a lot of information in a short amount of time. And so he doesn't kind of drag it out and just drone on like I do sometimes. And so what I wanted to point out, something he said, he's talking about these cameras. Oh, Hollywood won't let you shoot your video with a cheap camera, or Netflix won't stream your stuff on a poor workflow, or a codec. That's basically what it's coming down to, the codec. So there are technical functionalities of a camera that will allow you to edit further better. There's only so much color science that you can push on a cheaper camera, but something in a high res or a raw format will allow you to like change the colors without the footage breaking down. That makes sense. Okay, so so he got into all the technical stuff of it, but he pulled out of all the technical stuff and said story is more important than equipment. The story is more important than the gear. And so there's a term. All of this right here is very technical. You have cameras, lenses, tripods, audio, lighting, computer. All that is very technical. And you have to understand how to use the tools. But story is king. Story is king. Because without the creative story, you just have a bunch of equipment. And so I'm trying to combine, teach you how to use the tools and stay creative with your story.
So creativity comes first, and then supplies comes afterwards, right?
It can go both. It can go
The
either way.
creativity has to be there. You know,
Yeah.
like you could have all the stuff and not have, like, you know, creativity. You know, the urge, you know, to create, and like, you know, you just put stuff out there with good stuff. You know, and you know.
So
yeah.
there are people who their only job is to operate and man the camera. They're not responsible for the content in front of the camera. But as at our level, we're all content creators and consumers, right? We're going both ways. And so our only job isn't to man the camera or hold the boom mic or to turn on the lights. We're running everything. We're the creative director on our projects, for not maybe a paid gig, but for a graded gig, right? And so story is king. You can have a really good story shot on a poor quality camera and still keep the viewers engagement, right? But you cannot shoot a high quality video and it should be lame and boring. People aren't going to watch it. They're not going to sit through the whole thing. And how many of you guys heard of like the Blair Witch Project? You've heard of that? You remember like it was all like grainy footage, like black and white. Was it all black and white, or was it just some parts of it?
Some parts of it was black and white.
It was like the whole thing was shot
like
from the kid's perspective.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very good quality, but that was kind of like their
it was true.
Style,
I thought it was like real.
They were captivating the audience by making you believe that all of this was captured by the students. Remember that? So the story will reign. It'll take you further than the quality of the video. So if you can have expensive cameras, expensive lights, expensive all this stuff, but if you don't have a good story, then you're not going to capture the audience. And so we see that in commercials. We've seen that like a funny commercial will go a lot further than a high polished professional commercial. That makes sense? And so I'm segueing all this information, segue this into our final product or final project for the year. Our final project this year is an 8-minute movie. It's a short film. We talked about this last week. So with this being said, there is no prompt. So if you guys want to do a short, what do you call it? Stop motion, you can do that. If you guys want to do a vlog, you can do that. If you guys want to do a commercial, I don't know if there's any 8-minute commercials. But if you guys wanted to cover a product or cover something, then it's completely up to you. And so there are some rules in there. There's some things that, some aspects that I want you to capture in your final project. But the main thing is the story is king. The story will take you further than the quality of the camera. And so I have a short film that I'd like to show you. It's 6 minutes long. You're going to be shooting an 8-minute long video, but this is a 6-minute, kind of give you an idea. Okay? Pay attention to camera angles. Pay attention to how many shots are in the sequence, or how many shots are in how many stops and starts there are. Pay attention to audio, all of that kind of stuff. Okay? This is shot by the same guy, Darius Britt.
was rewatching parts of Better Call Saul because that show was
so good.
so good.
Yeah. Man, it brings me back to Breaking Bad when we first started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where, I don't know, you like a lot of the characters.
Who's that?
Just a coworker.
A guy?
Girl.
Hmm.
Whoa, hey. What does mean? Don't give me, no,
I didn't say anything.
Uh-huh. Just, look, she sends me freaking novels.
Wow. It's a lot of text.
She's a texter.
A lot of text. A lot of text. I mean, isn't that a little weird?
You're just a coworker.
Is entitled to the pursuit of happiness, and if their
This
idea
guy's so full of himself.
so be it.
And his voice is like,
Stop.
Call her.
oh, right now? It's like 11:30.
So, just texting her. It's not too late to call. I want to meet her.
Okay. Hey, Stacy, it's Troy. You got a second?
Yeah. What's up?
So, my girlfriend and I were just talking, and you came up, and I thought you two ought to meet.
Oh. Okay.
So, we're just laying here. You're on speaker.
Hey, Stacy.
Hey, I've heard a lot about you. How are you?
Oh, really? I'm just hearing about you.
Oh. Well.
So, how did you two meet?
I work at the Cigar Lounge on Broadway.
Anthony's?
Yeah, he comes in on Wednesdays. He's a really, really good guy. I'm actually still at work, so I kind of got to get back to it. It was really nice meeting you. We should definitely come to the lounge sometime. Okay, awesome. Good night, guys. Bye, Troy.
What's up?
You don't work at Anthony's. Troy, we're about to have a really, really big fight.
So, what do you guys think?
Cool.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Is there any takeaways? Anything that stood out to you?
He put himself, like how he put himself inside the film. Is,
you saw that?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of
how he did it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a. Hold on, let me see. Yeah. So it's kind of a cameo. That's him in the video, and this guy talking mess about that guy. Oh, he thinks he's so full of himself. He's the one shooting the video. So it's kind of funny to, kind of like breaking the fourth wall ish. And so another thing I want to point out is the last name of the girl. Cannon.
It's the camera he shot it with.
So it's kind of a callback. He's kind of playing with the words, kind of playing with the names.
Right.
So, what did you think of the audio?
Crisp, kind of like his. I don't know if it's
Like the sound of the speakers, you mean?
Yeah, it was kind of crisp. You can hear everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about whenever she's in the park? Right? There's slow motion going on.
Yeah, but I thought it was on purpose, because it's a part of the film where it's showing something, but it's kind of sped up. But you're showing it just to to prove a point that happened in that story. You don't have to go through the small details of it, but you're showing her she's trying to exercise, and she's at the same time she has that on her brain, what happened. So it's just showing that part.
So people exercise to clear their mind.
Yeah.
They're trying to shake it off. They're trying to just de-stress. They're trying to, kind of.
And it sound I heard the outside noises, the birds and stuff like that. It kind of helped set the scene of the place that she was at. It showed the kids and stuff like that too. But I think that was on purpose, not having the sound of her feet.
Intentional.
Yeah, and stuff like
but
that.
If you're exercising, wouldn't it be more upbeat? Wouldn't it be more exciting? Wouldn't it be? But that music is putting an undertone. She's trying to shake it off, but she can't shake this feeling.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's the emotion that's being driven. And so, because now she's starting to think. Now she's still, her thoughts have consumed her. She's not even in the moment anymore. She's in her head so much
that she can't hear her own self,
she's remembering.
She's there, but up there she's not there.
She's remembering all the time he's been distracted.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How much is this? How long has it been going on? She's a coworker, right? And so it's showing. It's a good way of showing what's going on in her mind. She's having these flashbacks. She's having these thoughts. She's having these suspicion.
He's so full of himself.
Okay. Something else I wanted to go back to in the beginning. And so
I was rewatching parts of Better Call Saul because that show.
from there to her phone is lighting up, but watch these transitions. Different times. Okay. So it's 4:59, 4:39. You see the times?
Passage of time.
4:59. 4:42. 5:18. The little time things will kind of hey, this is a lot of text in just a few minutes. So little clues like that will help the brain to engage. Hey, there's a lot going on. this isn't the same text message over and over. And so the camera moves right here, it pans, and then it changes the scene from right here to
I was
bam, right there.
rewatching parts of Better Call Saul because that shit
Oh,
was
so good. Yeah.
So how would you do that? You go over a dark spot and you cut the clip and so that's a in-camera transition. That's not done in editing, that's done in your camera. So if you have something like this and you're recording or something, you're recording what's going on over here, and then you go behind a dark scene, and then you can do something else, come from another dark scene. So you're intentionally shooting with the edit in mind. Does that make sense? That's why storyboards are so effective. Because I'm going to go from this sequence to this sequence. What can I do to tie these two together? I'm going to change from this setting to a whole nother room. So he's in the bathroom. I'm going to go behind this wall. And then I'm going to come out into the living room where it didn't show him walking from the bathroom to the living room. He's already there. So it's a creative little transition to captivate the viewer.
I was rewatching parts of Better Call Saul because that shit
Oh,
was
so good. Yeah.
And so you can hear the audio before you see her talking. So those are called J cuts and L cuts, where you can hear the audio that you're not seeing. Yeah, does that make sense? And so,
Man, it brings me back to Breaking Bad when we first started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where, I don't know, you didn't like a lot of the characters.
Who's that?
So it's zooming in on their conversation, and it starts panning when there's concern. Does that make sense? So when there's an attitude or a mood shift, the camera moves. Go back real quick. So panning in on the conversation.
Started watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where, I don't know, you didn't like a lot of the characters.
Who's that?
She shows concern.
Just a coworker.
A guy?
Girl.
Maybe being nonchalant. Just.
Whoa, hey. What does mean? Don't give me, no,
I didn't say anything. Well,
Now, it's parallax.
Uh-huh.
It's uncomfortable.
Look, she sends me freaking novels.
wow. It's a lot of text.
She's a texter.
A lot of text.
So you can it's still subtle,
A lot.
but it's still
Text.
ever slightly moving. You can almost feel her
Isn't that a
uneasiness.
little weird?
That's a coworker.
And he's uncomfortable because he's trying to get out of it. So that there is called an establishing shot when there's a scene transition, going from one place to another. Establishing shot. Hey, I'm changing scenes. I'm going from this place to that place, and so you kind of give it an environment shot. And movies do it. Like if you're going from New York to Tokyo, it will show, hey, it's a big shot of the city. Now you look like you're flying into Tokyo. And sometimes they'll have a little text pop up, Tokyo, or whatever, New York City, And so kind of give the viewer, hey, we changed places. Go in here. There's emotion. Although it's bright and sunny and she's exercising, it should be like upbeat music, but the music conveys the feeling.
He's so full of himself. And his voice is like, stop.
So close-up shots. Zoom in.
Color.
Oh, right now?
Shots on him are still,
So, just texting, it's not
but
too
on
late to
her,
call.
it's like
I want to meet her.
there's some kind of movement.
Okay.
So does every shot have to be in focus? Like you kind of get an idea.
Hey, Stacy, it's Troy. You got a second?
Yeah. What's up?
So, my girlfriend and I were just talking, and you came up, and I thought you two ought to meet.
Oh. Okay.
So, we're just laying here. You're on speaker.
Hey, Stacy.
Hey, I've heard a lot about you. How are you?
Oh, really?
So it sounds like the girl on the phone didn't know he had a girlfriend by how she hesitated, you know. So some things are nonverbal, and that plays very well on the big screen, because instead of telling you, "Hey, I didn't know you had a girlfriend," it's just awkward silence. It's like cringe, hesitating moments. It's that kind of stuff. How can you put a thought in the viewer's mind without saying it? You have to push that emotion and convey that. Oh, that tone is like, oh, okay, yeah. And then she goes on to explain to her, he's a really good guy. You know, it's like, don't worry, we haven't done anything or whatever. Or because she knows, oh, she probably saw the text messages that we've had a lot of conversation. Okay? Now, this girl is playing off.
I'm just hearing about you.
This is the first time I'm hearing about you. But is that true? No, because she was at the park thinking about her a lot, and like very concerned, very suspicious of her man. So so we know it's not true. So the viewer, why do we think that she said that?
To see her reaction.
Pride?
To like see her reaction.
Get her reaction? Okay. What do you have an emotional response to that? No? Emotional response?
Mm-hmm.
If you know that she's lying,
Yeah.
how did that make you feel?
I don't know. Like, I mean,
Like kind of anxious.
Anxious? Makes you anxious? It makes me kind of like, oh, she's being catty. She's like, oh, I've never heard of you.
well, it
know?
starts with him in the first place, right?
Say again?
It starts with him in the first place.
It started with him in the first place.
So it's his fault.
So she being catty with the other girl. Oh, I've heard so much about you. Well, I've never heard about you. Kind of like a diss, you know. So
It's like-
she's lashing out from a place of insecurity. She's insecure in her relationship, so she's trying to belittle that girl. That make sense?
Yeah, and then he said like, huh, here you go. Well, first, I have you on speakerphones. He said it like, yeah.
So it's kind of a there's interpersonal dynamics, interpersonal relationships, communication. Things are being said without saying it.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you must be nobody if I've never heard of you, right? And so.
Oh. Well.
So he's quiet. Zooming in on her.
So, how did you two meet?
I work at the Cigar Lounge on Broadway.
Anthony's?
Yeah, he comes in on Wednesdays. He's a really, really good guy.
Yeah.
I'm actually still at work, so I kind of got to get back to it. It was really nice meeting you. We should definitely come to the lounge sometime. Okay, awesome.
So right there,
Bye.
composition. What does that look like?
She's upset. She's upset.
She's upset. As far as the viewer, the composition of that shot right there. He could have set that shot up like from above, from below, from a different angle. Why did he use that shot there?
The angle, I don't know, but like I can tell the temperature of the shot, it kind of went up, and
Okay.
I think he's trying to express that, like like the temperature went up, so that means like, and then like she like it's like the thing that she's behind, it's a cool color, so I think he's trying to
Is it cool colors or warm
it's
colors?
green. It's green, so that's cool.
The background?
Yeah, and I'm saying like her face look like it's kind of like he turns the temperature, like a picture on Photoshop, like he turns temperature up or something like that, and like she behind her is something green. So he's trying to bring up the fact that she's angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So normally when you take first of all, the rule of thirds. She's not dead center. She's off to the side. Look at her eyes. Usually, whenever you're putting an important subject on a line, a rule of thirds or dead center or something, it's about the eyes. So right here is a rule of thirds. And so, but when you take a side profile shot like this, you're usually dead center of the photo, of the frame, or you have so much frame, so much empty space, white space in front of you. Why would you have so much empty space behind you?
Cause she
by
herself now. Huh? Like she's by herself now. Like
she's by herself. She's alone now. She's apart from him. He's laying down on the bed. So it's a motion driven shot. Sometimes things don't always have to be composition perfect. As long as there's a reason why. Does that make sense? There's a motion behind it. So she set up out of bed. Boom. Now she's waved like she's separated from him. Wait. She works at Anthony's. My man doesn't work at Anthony's. He's not a coworker. And so she didn't tell the girl, well, he said that y'all were coworkers. And so she didn't call out the elephant in the room. Does that make sense? And so she's separating herself. And now all this space behind her is these thoughts between him and her. Kind of make sense? Okay, so one more last point.
What's up?
You don't work at Anthony's.
Oh, excuse me.
Troy, we're about to have a
can you show that part again where she said that on the phone?
Where she lay back?
No. When she finally talked to her on the phone and she said like yeah.
So, how did you two meet?
I work at the Scar Lounge on Broadway.
Anthony's?
Yeah, he comes in on Wednesdays.
See, like she's looking at him, like
He's a really, really good guy.
Looking away from him.
no, she was looking at him when she said that. It like the way she was looking at him. She like, like that, So.
Well, the way she's laying, yeah,
you can see her eyes.
The way she's laying on his chest,
yeah.
They're both looking down at the phone.
No. When she said
hey,
that,
Stacey,
she looked at.
You got a second?
His head is above hers, so she's looking.
So my girlfriend and I were just talking, and you came up, and I thought you two ought to meet.
Boyfriend's head's right here.
Somewhere down, really.
Okay.
So we're just laying here. You're on speaker.
Hey, Stacy.
Hey, I've heard a lot about you. How are you?
Oh, really? I'm just hearing about you.
See, her boyfriend's head is up here. Her head down there.
Well, look at his mouth, though. Yeah.
So, how did you two meet?
I work at the Scar Lounge on Broadway.
See?
Anthony's?
Yeah, he comes in on
Right there.
Wednesdays. He's a really, really good guy.
She separates from him. She gets up.
So I kind of got to get back to it.
Did it between her and him.
It was really nice meeting you. We should definitely come to a lounge sometime. Okay, awesome. Good night, guys. Bye, Troy.
Zoom in. Slight zoom in.
What's up?
She doesn't lay back on his chest.
You don't work at Anthony's.
He's trying to keep it cool. Let it go, let it go, let it go.
Troy, we're about to have a really, really big fight.
So she said that off screen, right? So I like this video because it shows that not everything said has to be shown. You can kind of like move into a scene where they're talking without seeing what they're saying first. You kind of you pick up the dialogue before you get to them, and then you kind of catch up with them in the conversation. And then the scene cuts, and you still hear them talking. And so those little things like that will help captivate the audience and their attention, that kind of thing. So, anything else? So is that a good example for a short film? Pretty good example. It's not too long, but it keeps the viewer engaged for almost through the duration of the whole thing. And it kind of, almost all short films, like, okay, a full movie, Hollywood budget movie, there's a start, a middle, and the end. But short stories kind of leave you lingering. Kind of leave you, man, I wish there was more to that. I kind of wish there was more to, it's hard to tell a whole story in 6 or 8 minutes. And so, with that being said, keep that in mind for your own projects. Not every shot has to be in focus if you know what it is, like the camera shot, the phone. Pay attention to emotion, pay attention to audio, that kind of thing. What are you trying to get the audience to feel without saying it? You don't want to say everything and narrate everything. You have to hold their hand all the way through the story. You want them to come to their own conclusion, but it's your led conclusion. Make sense? It's kind of like giving somebody an idea. Like you're trying to, hey, I want to go do something fun. Let's go bowling or something. But you don't want to tell them, I want to go bowling. You want to let them come up with the idea like they come up with it all on their own. Like it was their idea. But it was what you wanted to do, but it was their idea. So kind of like that with filmmaking. You want to lead an audience to a conclusion without saying what it was. Kind of make sense? Cool. You can do that with emotion. You do that with music. You do that with certain camera angles, like a power shot or an inferior shot, those kind of things. So any other questions? Before we dismiss, before we head out, I want to reiterate that story is king. So there are two different aspects, two powerful aspects to filmmaking. One side is the technical side, and the other side is the creative side. You can get really good at the technical side, but the farthest you'll ever go, if you only learn how to use the tools, is working for someone else. Make sense? If you are the creative genius, then you can work for yourself all day long. Make sense? It's hard to be creative without knowing how to use the tools. That makes sense? You can be creative all day long, but you can't put it on paper. You can't put it on video without knowing how the tools work. So there's kind of a clash of technology and your creative brain. You're kind of pushing those two together. Now, as technology improves, it becomes a whole lot easier for us to use our creativity. Does that make sense? Because now, okay, for example, back a long time ago when they were painting on the Sistine Chapel, if they made a mistake, they had to wait for the paint to dry and paint over it, so it took a lot of time. It took a lot of effort. You try not to make any mistakes. But now in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and Premiere Pro, if you make a mistake, you hit Control-Z and go back, and you can just keep on going. So you're more free to make mistakes. You're more free to move faster. That makes sense? So the clash of technology, or the addition of technology and your creative brain, will move things faster for you guys and more freely without worried about making mistakes. Cool? But it's also important not to take advantage or not to take that for granted, is a better word. All right. I think that's going to wrap up the class, guys. You're free to stay and work if you want, but that's going to dismiss. Cool? Thanks for coming in.